where your kids, and that's bad.
But it's through the Webster Groves.
Oh, fun, and
Yeah.
that's fun, yeah.
Yes.
I remember my granddaughters are 28 now, but when they were 4, they put that song, like, how did that even happen, right? It was just a weird thing.
Oh, yes.
Well, yeah, my daughter's starting this year too.
I know, and then
And
it's
it's just
yeah.
a mess. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
I tried to promote Mike up to panelist and he declined it. I see you, Mike.
Is it just Mike?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we've covered probably.
I'm gonna share that one.
This is somebody said he was going to sort of practice. He's like, but I'm not going unless I have my red ball. And I was like, oh my God, I am trying to leave right now.
Oh,
There we
yeah.
go.
And we didn't find the ball. Like, take this time as possible. Just put it in the car. Like his grandpa's over there, so I was find my child. He's walking in right now.
Yeah.
So he said he got it.
It's a red
Oh,
ball.
He's 11,
Oh, okay.
so his brother's not like
Practicing.
5-year-old.
No.
Wandering. Yeah.
No, I would have walked him all the way in. I held him for honor.
All right, Chairman, you have quorum and it is after 7. I'll leave that. You have 5.
Goodbye.
We made it.
It's okay, you have everybody?
We're missing Andrew.
Let's-
Okay, yeah, I think I got it. Dan's not here? Oh, Dan. Okay.
All right, we'll call to order. First up, approval of September minutes. Any comments before I make a motion?
I'll make sure the formatting is cleaned up. I'll
Yeah.
make sure it looks right on a desktop after Kate sent it to me since you're seeing it differently on your
But
mobile.
it's on.
Yeah, we'll make sure it's
Yeah.
cleaned up on those folks that were actually here.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's passed. All right. Visitors, I don't think we have anyone else online, right? That's fine.
We do not.
Okay. And so on to the fee schedule.
All right, I'm gonna bring it up to, apologize for not having this on paper. For those here, again, my computer decided not to print for me, so,
Two, because you sent today's.
down. All right, so fee schedule, up the top is kind of the history of when we've done it. We didn't do very many, once we opened the building in 2008, we waited 5 years to do another one in 13, a couple years for 17. And then a couple years more in 19. 19 kicked off, that was when the minimum wage got increased in the state of Missouri. So then we started kind of every other year. For daily admissions, 1 year, membership fees and rentals, the max, we did that for a few years. And then we didn't do any in 2023 or 2024. So proposing memberships, daily and rental increases starting January of 2025. Not a huge amount, only estimating about 12,500 additional revenue for residents. And about 86,000 for non-residents. Most of that was off the aquatic center, water park, and we'll get down to that in a minute. The big thing I do want to note is that there is another statewide ballot issue next month for minimum wage increases again. That's called Proposition A. I haven't seen really anybody opposing it yet, like there's no big push to oppose it. So I imagine it will likely pass. If I had to guess, that'll take it up to $15 minimum wage by 2026. So it'll be $1.45 increase this January, $1.25 increase next January 2026, and then it's tied to the CPI every year thereafter. So I'd estimate that at about 3% every year thereafter. It also includes a sick time provision. That any employee gets 1 hour of sick time on working 30 hours. So we have several, part-time employees that don't currently qualify for any sick time at work. 25, 28 hours a week. So those folks would theoretically start earning some sick time. I don't know if that's sick time. I haven't actually read this law yet to see if it is. Like currently, I don't own my sick time. So if I would not work in the city anymore, I don't get to take my sick time with me. I don't get paid out of that. You own your vacation and your comp time. That's kind of federal law. I don't know if this state law will say that they own their sick time. So if they leave, we have to pay them out for that. And this law does technically exempt government having to follow those minimum wage or that sick time. The last minimum wage increase also exempted governments. It's not a real good idea. Who's gonna come work for me at $7.45, which is my minimum wage? Technically, when the state's minimum wage is $12.40. Nobody, right? So that's out there. If we did those increases, just on that $1.45, we'd be looking at about $58,000 additional part-time salary next calendar year, and then an additional $50,000 the following year, 3% off that. That's already off. That's not tied into the increase there in row 12, which is fiscal 25. That's what I'm estimating our expenses will be at next year. And that's our revenue estimate. So expenses are already kind of outpacing revenues in general. We are not a estimate 100% of its money. We are funded by the general fund to some extent, and we do have a property tax. Well, two property taxes now. One property tax for the parks and stormwater sales tax. Sorry, that's a sales tax. And then the property tax that you all just funded for the big property bond issue. So all that being said, that's just the background information. So down into the nitty gritty of the fee increases, all the yellow columns would be the fee increases that I would propose. You've got, full facility, your resident right now is $330. I propose to raise it to $335. It's a $5 increase. That would end up making us about $650. So none of these are real big. Basically the same thing on non-residents. We did have a typo on this column last month when we looked at it, and it was that I did have the actual rate right. So the current non-resident rate is $550. The new rate would be $555. So again, a $5 increase. So none of those are of a very large amount increase for any of the memberships. Even the aquatic center memberships really aren't that big of an increase. Do we want to talk?
I just have a quick question. Are there data that say what's the best way to slip in an increase on a community? Like a small increase every year or a bigger increase, but maybe not every year? Or is that data even, are the data even available? And I don't know what better means.
No, there's really not.
Okay.
As you can see in our history, we've done both. We didn't do any for many years, and then we did a couple of years of those gradual ones, basically based off of that huge minimum wage increase, because we knew it was going to hit us every year going forward. And then once that big minimum wage increase stopped, and we're just at normal raises that we do every year, we stopped that again. So for me, it's more, what do we need? Like I wouldn't raise rates just to raise rates. And we did in the last couple of years because we didn't really need them. When we get these minimum wage increases, or if we have huge inflationary things that are costing, that's when I think that it behooves us to look at these to potentially add some additional revenue. And again, it's not, I think it's easy, for me, it would be easier to swallow a $5 increase every year than a $50 increase 4 years from now.
Well, part of the reason I asked is I'm just looking at our estimated costs or, operating expenses, and I'm like $650. That's what I buy toilet paper,
Yeah, that's just for one membership, or one membership type.
Right,
There's only 130 people that have that, but you're right.
Yeah, I was just curious, so,
Yeah.
but I mean, every little bit adds up. It's not like that's the only one you're doing.
Right, cumulative, those add up to almost 100,000 a year.
Yeah.
On everything I'm proposing, but we could go higher,
No, I'm not advocating that, I was
Yeah.
just curious.
For the tennis, it looked like that was the only rate that dropped. Is that because of the cost sharing to build the new courts? That bottom one, -90, tennis, +3 non-resident.
Memberships. I'm not sure why that one is 45. We have too many memberships is what it really boils down to.
There are a lot of different
There
kinds of
are, yeah.
memberships, right?
Yes. This building was built in phases, and as they built new things, they just added a new membership in, as opposed to having. I mean, we do have the full facility, which is what most places have. Most places don't have all these individual a la cartes. You know, you have a single and you have a family, and it's the whole facility. That's how most facilities are.
Switching.
We've looked at it. It helps some people, it hurts some people. So it's, you know, if you're a family of 3, it would hurt you to go if we only had a family membership and not the first, the second, each additional. If you're a family of 5 or 6, it would be cheaper if we went to just a family membership.
Well, some people probably just want to block.
A lot of people just want the pool. A lot of people just want fitness and don't want the rink and the pool together. Yeah,
Is there, I went over this, I looked this over earlier today, but I didn't notice, is there an increase in like rate for people that don't have memberships, like if they come to use,
yes.
there's, it's on,
Yeah,
it's
so-
like using the workout.
Yeah, so this one is, the first part here is all memberships, and then the next section down is the daily fees.
Oh, okay, there we
And
go.
those are for the people like you're saying, just come in
Yeah.
for one day. Or because again, the cost of these, not hardly much at all. Fitness stayed the same, $6. Gym went up, which that's actually the gymnasium. And then the rink basically went up 50 cents to get it to be even dollar amount. So I'm tired of having to keep up with quarters.
Yeah,
And you said the rink pass is depressed because of how much the local other places are charging.
The daily pass.
The daily
yeah,
pass, you said you think it could be more, but
it's in line with what everybody else is doing. Now, there is also, most people don't own their own skates. So when you come, you also have a $2 skate rental on top of that. So, you know, you're gonna go to $7 basically if you're coming an adult. $5 to get in plus $2 for membership. So when you throw that skate rental on there, it's in line with, you know, the aquatic center and the fitness center and everything else.
Do you think that $15 non-resident aquatic is the biggest risk that this won't hit the income projections? Or is there another line item where you go, if our income doesn't pan out, it's probably due to these 1 or 2 things?
The income,
So you're projecting we're gonna generate an additional 98,000 total.
right,
Within this entire budget, if we were not to hit 98,000, can you point to 1 or 2 where you're like, that's the risk?
yeah, it'll likely be that pool, aquatic center, daily admissions. That is a big number, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, $15 if you're taking a family of 4, you know, you're at $60 just to walk in the door if you're a non-resident. Get you some concessions and suddenly you're at $80 or $90 for a day's activity. That's not nothing. It's cheaper. You can go to Six Flags or maybe you can go to the movies, but it's certainly,
Cheaper than a cards game.
yeah, it's certainly, and there is a definite cost to that. I do feel that that's, you know, again, that's in line with the aquatic centers in the other in the rest of the area, you know, that $15, $16, $17 is fairly consistent with a lot of the other municipalities. I think next year people will pay it because it's gonna be the new hot thing and everybody's gonna wanna come. And then once you paid it the first year, but once the non-residents have paid it, they realize they gotta pay that if they go into the other pools as well. You know, there's a couple that are that are cheaper. I would imagine a lot of those are gonna be coming up too. I mean, this data is from beginning of the pool season, so, you know, they may be, some of these other cities, you know, Crestwood may be looking to increase theirs too, when they get done building their new rec center. They're not building a pool with the new rec center around there or whoever else. I can't imagine that Ellisville doesn't get up above $9, you know, above $10 at some point. They're still at $9, so.
Are these all outdoor?
Uh,
Like Clayton?
yeah, yes, all these aquatics I did pull for the outdoor pools, yes.
And is it that much higher for a non-resident in a way to deter and just keep the numbers down so it doesn't get to, I mean, I see it on a lot of them, it's double plus.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to kind of the same thing I was saying last time is you all as residents have already put money into this through the bond issue, through your property taxes. And so you should have first access to it and more access to it than non-residents who haven't contributed that additional long-term funding. So, yeah, it should cost more as a resident. I'm not a resident. If I wanted to bring my family here, or if I wanted to take my family to Baldwin, I should have to pay more to go to those pools. I haven't paid anything into them to build them or maintain them every single year, so.
And to keep it from being overcrowded so that the residents can enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, if it's $5,
Yeah.
everybody will go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that $15 is concerning for those folks that, you know, are neighbors that can't afford $15. I had a freestyle, I'm on the freestyle pool pass committee, and we met last week, and that was one of the big things that we talked about is as they go to start their fundraising for next year. They're either gonna need to raise more funds or potentially offer less passes. And they are looking to offer less to restrict the usage of the passes by non-residents. Some, we had a lot of folks coming from Illinois and Wisconsin and Afton, Fenton and wherever, and they were checking in, so they are gonna redraw the policies a little bit in the back of the cards so that it is just the surrounding communities around Webster as that can get those free passes. So hopefully that'll discourage some folks from Fenton or wherever from coming and trying to use the free passes.
Scott, I'm not familiar with how people qualify for those passes.
You walk up and you ask if I can have one. That's how you qualify.
And that's how they do it with I thought, I recall you saying Rock Hill did not do something like that for.
Correct, so that freestyle pass, it's a free pass and anybody that, you know, it's supposed to be anybody of need that can't afford to come to the pool can come to the front desk here and ask for a pass. No questions asked, me and you pass to go there. You know, trying to remove all the barriers around anybody's issue. We're aware that there's probably some people that take advantage of that. There's always somebody that takes advantage of everything, but they want it to be as open as possible. They want to remove the stigma of someone, you know, some 10-year-old kid having to come up and say, you know, here's my mom's tax forms. She can't afford to let me in today or whatever type of thing. So it's a difficult situation. It's a really good program. I think we've helped a lot of people. I think the community that has fundraised and paid for it has helped a lot of folks be able to come use the pool. On a side note, it does actually drive revenue to us because likely people that would not be able to use the pool that now are, and somebody's paying for that. So we are collecting spreading for that. Lindsay, to your question about Rock Hill, so there are 2 cities now that are Glendale and Oakland are allowed to come in and use the facility at resident rate. So their city government is paying the difference. Yeah, they're making up the difference amount. We've offered that to a couple of communities that have chosen not to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wish for the students who go to school in Webster, there was something like that, and I know it's like they're coming from Shrewsbury or, you know, different, so it's not really one community overall, but I just feel like some of the kids that might not be able to afford to go with their friends because they live, it's always expensive for their parents to pay for it all the time, it makes me sad that they can't.
But they're the ones that can use the
Go where-
freestyle pass.
Okay, so that's,
Yeah.
that was my question, which was kind of answered, so they can just come here. Do they just come up to the desk and ask?
Came up and said, I'd like a freestyle pass, and we just handed it.
Okay,
Now last year we did have, for the first time, we had to restrict how many, because they didn't. There wasn't as much fundraising, so we restricted to 1,000 last year. It has grown every year as it's gotten more popular, more people knew about it. So last year we were only able to give out 1,000 passes, that's how much money they raised. So we're gonna start their fundraising again in January. And depending on how much they raise, we may have to limit that number again. The city actually does kick in $3,000 towards that program. Last year was about $6,600. It was about 750, 770 odd passes that were actually used. We had 1,000 printed, but not all of them got redeemed and actually used. So it's about $6,600 that was actually spent, and the city kicked in 3,000 of that, so. But with this going up, you know, it was $10 this year, now it's 15, so. That's why they're looking to restrict access to it from our now non-surrounding communities or non-school district students. We're kind of careful about saying the school district because there's a lot of folks in Webster that don't go to that school, don't go to the Webster Grove School District, you know, whether they're in Park School or they go somewhere else. There's a lot of folks in Shrewsbury or wherever that may also not be Webster Grove School District. So if anybody from those communities, whether you're going to the public school or not, it's kind of what they're looking. So yeah, again, the daily admission's pretty cheap. Other than that, non-resident aquatic is going up quite a bit. And then the other ones, room rentals, no change on the room rentals. Ball field rentals, we are looking to take up. It's currently $15 for non-lit, 30 for lit. We're looking at 25 for lit, and non-lit, sorry, 50 for lit. The big one is that $50 one. Cost of electricity is just through the roof. I also hope we're trying to put in some better controls because right now people rent, a lot of them will rent 2 hours of unlit, an hour of lit, but then as soon as they get there at 6 o'clock, they turn the lights on. Because we don't have real good controls on some of our systems, so the coaches get a combination to padlock and they can turn the lights on whenever they want. So we're trying to get that a little more under control, and that's one of the reasons why that lit price is going up a little bit to cover those when they turn them on earlier than they're supposed to cost. And then the pool rentals, with the new pool being built, additional lifeguards needed. And quite frankly, the people that have rented it are telling us all the time, you guys are way too cheap on your rentals. We're looking to increase the rental costs on those after hour evening rentals for the pool.
Mandatory
Police.
release fee.
That's
Is
separate,
that-
police officers separate.
That
Still
kind of
working on
hurts.
that we're still working on that, but yes, that doesn't include the police.
But that's only,
That's a cost.
police is only required outside of normal working.
Correct. But if you rent out the whole pool, it's gonna be outside of,
yeah,
those hours.
So based on that one, I took it to $250 to walk in the door, on any of the individual pools for the leisure pool, the lap pool $250, or the toddler pool for $250. That's just to get staff here, get it turned on, get it working, and then, you know, if you're only gonna rent one pool, you know, we need more lifeguards. Once you get 76 people need more lifeguards, and once you get 150 people need more lifeguards. So the rate goes up, based on those additional lifeguard units. We will be working on a multi-pool discount. Quite frankly, we don't have that all put together yet. We're still negotiating what our lifeguard rates will be for next year, at the new, water park. So, and a lot of times people will rent, the lap pool and the leisure pool, or the leisure pool and outdoor pool. So if you're gonna rent two of those, it won't be $250 and $250 for each pool. But I don't have what that will be worked out yet.
And that's just per hour, right?
Per hour, yes. But again, if you're looking at, 75 people, at $250. $3. A little more, three and a quarter, right? 3.25 a person, I know, when my daughter was still doing birthday parties, you can't hardly go anywhere and do something for 3.25 a person, for an hour. You can do 2 hours, you're only at $6.50 a person. And yeah, you're probably gonna get some piece of cake or something else to throw in there too, but it's still a pretty cheap birthday party type of rental scenario. So that's my thoughts. I welcome any of your thoughts, and if you think anything is completely crazy and want to change something, feel free to do so. What I'm looking for is a recommendation that you guys would feel comfortable taking to council, and saying that, the Parks and Recreation Commission has looked over these, fee proposals and we think these are in line, and we would recommend the council take these up. They obviously have final choice. If they decide they don't want to do one of these, or want to move something up, or want to move something down, they can. They've asked a lot of good questions, much as you guys have tonight and last week, when we did this in the past. They normally have gone with, what you guys have said, or what I have said, if there's been one that differed, on those. That was a great difference between the two of us. Historically, we as in you and me together have been pretty much in line, other than, maybe one or two, line items somewhere. So,
Thank you.
That sounds weird, but with the new pool and concessions, is there any additional revenue projected from any concessions or food sales?
well, I hope so, but I don't know yet. We are still working through our process on all the different concession equipment. We are hoping to have, part of that's getting caught up with construction and with county permitting, on stuff. I was looking to move everything towards, currently have regular old deep fryers with the baskets, and you drop the stuff down in the hot water. I was looking to go to different systems that are completely enclosed, self-venting, self-fire suppressions. Not looking like that's gonna work with county, and we still need a range hood and blah, blah, blah. So long story short, yes, I'm hoping that we will have a higher quality of food with better equipment. I'm hoping that we will have speedier lines with either kiosk ordering or app-based ordering. We're still working on both of those options, and how we get that tied into our current system, or whether we scrap it and go its completely own kitchen, restaurant, point of sale system. So we're still working on those, but I hope so. I don't want to increase the prices. Like, I'm not looking for Busch Stadium type prices.
Right.
I still want it to be, reasonable, as if you went to Chick-fil-A and got something, $10 a person, get you a full meal type of thing or less. With some lower price stuff, hot dogs still gonna be $2 or something like that. But having some choices, I'm trying to maybe get some fresh pizza, maybe get some higher quality, not just popcorn hot dog. But I'm not there yet.
So were you saying you don't know for sure whether the device ordering is gonna be possible?
Still working, yeah.
Okay,
I think it will be. It's just picking a vendor and what that vendor is able to offer, whether it's kiosk or whether it's app-based or whether it's both of those combined. So
okay.
I'm still working.
If
with
it's app-based, does that give us an opportunity for advertising revenue?
Potentially.
Not that I would launch cookies on anybody,
Yeah.
but saying it
Potentially.
is for concessions.
Yeah. Potentially, one of the other things I'm looking at, that may have some advertising opportunities is, either reusable cups or the ball, aluminum cups like you get at, city soccer matches that are recyclable. Um, Potentially having those logoed, I'd rather, one option is just do it as an upsell, like if you're sustainability minded, you pay an extra 30 cents for an aluminum cup versus a paper cup, but that we can recycle better. Or we get an advertisement to go, a logo to go, co-sponsored by blah blah on the backside type of thing, so looking into some options like that.
Another one might be banners for Webster Waves, the still called the Waves meets, just because it's sporting
Yeah.
events, I mean, you see nothing but banners at a Cardinals game.
Right, well, and same thing in all the new school district fields, all the banners that they've got up.
I mean, people almost expect it,
Yeah.
and it'd be kind of a, it's a pretty big hit,
Yeah,
but advertising, so.
For convenience, have you ever thought about selling like suntan lotion, sunglasses, AirPods here, something like that?
so we have tried a few of those things in the past, swim diapers is about the only thing that really sold very well at the pool. We've tried to sell goggles, stuff like that in the past, they didn't really go. The ice rink has tried several things over there and it ends up just not selling very well, and then quite frankly, we end up with some inventory loss. And it's almost used, so a bunch of the ice rink stuff, now we just put it in the vending machines. They carry hockey tape and shoelaces
Oh, wow.
in the actual vending machines. So we have that company stock and whatnot. So, yeah, it could be possible that we could sunscreen, something like that, I might not be too opposed on, but I wouldn't do AirPods or anything like that, that is just too much money to have sitting around. Yeah.
So looking for a motion to say we approve and recommend these fees. Any other comments before we go there?
I think it looks good.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve and recommend these fees to the council. Right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
You guys are the best.
Alright, is that it on the agenda?
That's it on the agenda,
Are we setting our next meeting or is that next year?
I was trying to pull up so there's council reports, council report side of Venus not here, my report is the pool's going, it's actually starting to be built. If you were able to walk out there, you could see down into the hole, they're starting to frame up the walls. One kind of cool thing that'll come out in this week's weekly newsletter from the city manager's office is we hit some rock out there that we thought we were gonna have to pay to have broken up and excavated out. It could have cost us upwards of $25,000 or more dollars. School district hit a bunch underneath their football field, and they were doing it too. Turns out we didn't have to jackhammer it out. They were able to break it out in big pieces, and then the city actually hauled it off. So we took it down to Deer Creek Park. So if you go down to Deer Creek Park right now, there's two massive piles of boulders down there. And we're gonna use that rock to rebuild some of the staircases that are back up in the woods to go from the lower side up to the top part of Deer Creek Park. And then also, hopefully we can get approval to use some of it to armor up the creek bank where the bridge goes across into Maplewood with the last couple of years worth of major floods that creek banks even some erosion to it, so turns out it was a great deal. So we got a bunch of free rock, which would normally cost us a boatload of money to buy it ourselves. We got it free, and it didn't cost us a lot of money to have to jackhammer and get rid of it at the pool. So
What kind of rock was it?
mostly limestone, but I mean, there's a couple that are as big as this table. Yeah, we weren't able to take those, they're still out there, and we may use them as some kind of feature focal point landscapey thing outside the pool fence here. But a lot of the other ones were, they were, we could only get a couple times we only got 3 or 4 boulders in an entire dump truck, to drive down there, so some of them are pretty big size route. So, I mean, none of them are less than this, that we really took, so.
You can push them halfway up that hill.
Something, Yvonne's gonna do something with them, yeah, she's gonna get on the skid steer and start moving them up the hill one by one and packing them in. I'm not exactly sure how she'll get them all the way up. I kind of thought we should park them at the top of the hill and then roll them down,
Put a
but,
stopping point.
yeah, so she's pretty good at that stuff.
I have a question, it probably should have been straddling old business and new business. So for my fellow members, one was a follow-up on the question that I asked last meeting, Scott, about, like, with respect to the data that we have. And everybody's desires with respect to Prop W, specifically the amphitheater. I keep running into people who express a lot of qualms about that. So my question was, how many Webster residents versus non-residents?
I did not pull that data for you.
I don't even know if it's possible to do,
I
but
don't either, so I will,
I don't know how balancing act works, but my bigger question for you guys is, would anybody, and I don't even know how we work as committees, but would anybody want to take a look at that data specifically with respect to the allocation of funds for the big things, particularly the amphitheater? My attendant question is whether or not we're actually gonna for sure do some footings.
we are not building footings for the indoor.
So if we want an indoor pool at a future date, do we have to deconstruct in order to do this?
So we would have to take out just the deck, which is 4-inch concrete, like a sidewalk or a driveway, we'd have to pull out that deck.
$300,000, $500,000
No, it would probably be,
and then to rebuild the deck? That's a lot, with the pool already built. We'd have
What
to do damage
changed
to the
though? I
pool.
thought that was.
I thought we in here were told definitely the footings.
Yeah, I thought even the mayor, or not the mayor, but we're Dr. Peoples.
so we always said that we would construct the pool in such a way that we could always do the indoor. And we were looking at potentially putting in footings now while we were doing everything. The footing cost alone was gonna be about $125,000, I think it was, somewhere in that neighborhood. Council, about a month ago, took up this topic at a council meeting and discussed it, and with the current revenue streams that we had, decided not to move forward with the indoor pool at the given time frame. They put a 3-year kind of hold on it to discuss again once the rest of Prop W stuff is kind of finished off. Come back, discuss it some more, figure out where the revenue would come from on the operating cost of that indoor pool, and then how they would want to fund the construction of it. I think the city could likely fund the construction of it. It's at operating costs going forward every year. Is that bigger question of how do we fund that $300,000?
Here's my question, Scott. Have we done a deep dive into operating costs for an amphitheater? Cause to my mind, that would require
No, we're not.
someone from marketing, security, cleanup, all kinds of manpower to make that run. And yet it's a, gangbusters proposal that everybody wants, but the research that was done is statistically invalid. I mean, self-selected research studies are statistically invalid, full stop. You can look it up, everybody can look it up, I can bring you data, I can bring you information that substantiates that. And given that we're moving forward, ostensibly with Prop W and all the things that were researched using self-selected opinion polls, and we're not moving forward with what was ranked highest on the pool survey. The very first question was, what do you want? And the number one answer was an indoor pool. None of the subsequent questions had indoor pool on there. Do you want a splash pad? Do you want concessions? Do you want other things? The indoor pool option was dropped, but it was the very number one answer at the beginning of that survey. And I'm just perplexed. I don't know why this has been so soundly voted down when I think if we legitimately polled the citizens of Webster, I think they want it.
I think the only way to legitimately poll them is to take it to a ballot initiative. And that would be your polling, and then you see who would vote yes and who would vote no.
But back in the day, we used to do statistic polls, you randomly poll the citizens of Webster and you get more statistically valid data. And I just would like to throw that out to my fellow commission members because we never gave a formal recommendation to the council with respect to this.
Yeah, I think the part that's just stuck in my throat even more, because I guess I'm not questioning that the public wants it, but the fact that this has always been we have plenty of cap money, but we don't have enough OpEx money. Why would we not build the pool if that's a CapEx cost? And we've always said we had plenty of that. That's what I don't understand.
I mean, if we took money from the amphitheater, which we don't know for sure is even what people of Webster want, specifically put on 40 acres land these are historical ball fields. I don't know where else we were thinking about putting it, but that's what I thought the Marie people said one time that they're talking about putting it right up here. And I don't know that the citizens of Webster would vote for that. I think that needs to be a specific request. If that's what they want, I think people would go pretty nuts over that.
And there will be more public input before the amphitheater's 2 years down the road at least. So before we get to building that, there will be public input on where, when, how big, all those questions asked again, but
And the $100,000 for footings couldn't be taken from that right now, just to make sure the footings were in there. Because it's gonna be triple that minimum to put the footings in
I
there.
don't think it will be triple that. I think we're looking at 125,000 a day, maybe 180,000.
I do construction projects and concrete's hefty. It's expensive, but you know that, you can deal with it, but my question to you guys is, do we wanna explore how the research was done, or just gently say, you know, we think this deserves a second look, footings need to be considered more strongly, or am I, like, do you guys wanna let it rest?
So, just to push back a little bit, I
Yeah.
do think that it has been discussed repeatedly since this whole thing got brought up. The idea of an indoor pool.
Here
There
among
were
us.
at the city council meetings, at any opportunity that those in the vocal minority, I think, that really want a pool, have had their say given. I think due consideration was given. And I personally respect that maybe it might be nice, but I don't know that that's the kind of expense that the city wants to put on one particular thing that not everybody uses. As a non-swimming family, I don't know how much my family would personally get out of an indoor pool.
Right.
There are other facilities that I might use more often if we do more for pickleball. That's what I'm playing currently. So, you know, I can push for what I feel great on and other people can push for the indoor pool that they want, but I mean, I do believe that they have been heard and that the city just decided this is just not something we wanna spend our
So
money on.
basically, you're saying for a non-swimming family, it's a 100% expense that you don't get to benefit. Really, is what.
No, there's a lot of expenses the city makes that I don't personally benefit from,
Right.
so I'm not saying that that's where my position lies. My position really lies with the fact that the voices have been heard and that those that we trusted to make those decisions have made them. And it seems like we kind of keep going back to, well, why don't we revisit the indoor? Why don't we revisit? But it seems like we have been revisiting.
The only number measuring what people wanted though showed the highest response for an indoor pool, and that was never followed up on. So probably if there were
I
real
think it was
data.
followed up on. I think.
No, I'm talking about in a statistically valid polling way. And those numbers I haven't seen. Maybe if they exist, I would love to see them, but
But I've seen, I mean, Scott, we've talked about the numbers of the projected revenues that you can get from the other indoor pools in the area and on what kind of participation you're gonna get based on the numbers of the fees that you're gonna generate from said, there's just a big gap in what you could possibly make versus what it's gonna cost you. And I think the city took that into account, and I just don't think that we've been given any new information, regardless of how many people think that, no, that's wrong, that we could generate more revenue than anybody else in the area. I think that they've looked at numbers and said it's just not something that this council is interested in.
And Mike, check me on this, that I agree with, but the part for me, and I wanna make sure I remember this right, was I thought they gave the impression that they were going to do some things to make it easier to put in an indoor pool in the future, and that they were considering that maybe revisiting in the next 2 to 3, 4 years, and it feels to me that not putting the footers in is a very strong statement of, we're not gonna be revisiting in the next 3.
Council absolutely said, you can go back and watch council meeting, they put a 3-year wait on it and they will revisit it. And they can revisit it sooner than that, if any single council member wants to bring it up and visit it sooner. You know, if revenues change, if somebody, if the school district or some swim team or some advertising comes in and says, you know, we're willing to give you $150 grand a year or something, you know, that could change stuff, but nobody has come forward to do that.
So the thinking of not putting the footers in is just, this is $100 and some odd $1,000 we don't need to spend because we're not positive that it's.
Because if we had to do it again in 3 years, it's not 300, it's 100 plus 20%, because you're digging out or cutting out the section of deck that you're gonna put a footing underneath. You know, so yes, there's more expense to it, but
It'll cost more 3 years now than it would cost to build today. My concern is, in 3 years, if, or whatever your time frame you wanna say, if we decide to go forward with it, if I've already built today's footings, what if that company's not visiting? Then I got $500,000 to rip out the old footing and put new footings in. Or what if there's a new type of building structure that comes out, or different
And that
codes
makes-
and it doesn't work anymore, cause 3 years is a long time.
Right,
You know?
that makes sense, I think it's also the cap idea too of, if we end up spending all that cap money, and then the vote in 3 years comes by of, yes, the public wants an indoor pool. Then it's kind of like, why didn't we use that cap money, that supposedly the pool was the big earmark, that's where most of the cap money should have been
We have
going.
plenty of money to do it, well, people would disagree with that. But also too, I wonder, to your point, how many people sat back and said, oh, okay, well, they're doing the footings, so this is legitimate, and then the footings were taken out from under them. And so, you know, they kind of like.
I guess I just don't feel like the footings not going in now are the line in the sand that it seems that you guys are feeling that it is, that not doing it now means we're not gonna do it, whereas I trust hopefully that the 3 years is something that they would revisit.
Well, if they said they were going to, then it sounds like they meant.
It's on the agenda to
Yeah.
do so.
I guess
3
for
years
me,
is a
the
long
bottom
time.
line is, I don't know, I'm not convinced that a majority of Webster residents didn't want the indoor pool now as part of that Prop W money. And I'm also have some questions about the revenue stream projections, because they're disagreeing versions of that. So those two are really two big concerns.
I have a little issue with the disagreeing revenue streams. The people that put together those revenue streams, this is their job, this is what they do for a living. We hire consultants that they build pools and they do pool studies for a profession. They've been doing it for 45 years. They're one of the best companies in the entire country. They have it based out of St. Louis. And then you've got myself, who's been doing municipal parks and recreation for 25 years. So I'm not saying that there's not lay people that are very smart, but I wouldn't go into my dentist office and tell him how to clean my teeth and tell him he's doing it wrong. You know, so I put a lot of time and effort into those revenue stream models. I've worked at multiple pools. This is the third pool I've worked at in the St. Louis region. And when I say that none of them make money, I'm 100% confident, and I'm standing behind that none of them will break even. And so those revenue streams, while people can disagree with them and, you know, yes, we could charge more here, expenses could be more there. It's an estimate until you build it. I'm telling you that estimate is I'm 100% stand behind those numbers.
during those public input sessions. How much is it just for, you'll focus on a specific project and just informing the specific project versus my concern is, yes, we had all those things put in the flyer, but it felt like half of those things weren't based on true public input. And some of them were just earmarked projects or.
100% right.
Yeah, and I guess, will those forums allow us, the public, to speak up about, hey, I really don't understand why those 3 projects got pushed through and, you know, I don't want the dog park. Something that had a ton of public interest like the dog park didn't even make the list, and being able to have that type of voice.
Yeah, for sure. If we have a public input on the skate park and 1,000 people come out to the skate park and say, we want a dog park. Yeah, I mean, the city we'd listen to that for sure. We haven't planned those public inputs, so to answer your question, will they be individually focused or more of a broader next year focused? Probably be some of both of those. Obviously, some of those projects are, you know, we're gonna rebuild the skate park, you know. It's not a tremendously used feature, but for the kids who need it, they need a space to go to, and it's nice to have a space for them next to the middle school to come use and be here after school. Their parents know that it's a safe spot for them. So some of those things are like that are just down there. Some of the things I put in the list because it was maintenance stuff that needed to be done. Some of the stuff got put in by council because it was stuff that the council wanted based on, you know, their input or the input that they got from their constituents. So yeah, not all that stuff had full public input. We've said from the get-go that they're likely projects, but we don't know what the size and scale of some of these will be. Or if we go and do a public input and 1,000 people come out and say, nobody wants this, then we would take a look at not doing that.
Would you guys be, and I don't keep this all late, but would you guys be interested in our taking a more structured or proactive role in evaluating how things are going forward, just from our own perspective, and then delivering sort of our thoughts on things to the council? Like, for example, during a public session, one of us, as a representative of the Parks and Rec Commission, would attend, report back to this group, so then we have that information and talk amongst ourselves and make more
From the city
reasonable.
council meetings.
So like if there are public input sessions,
Oh,
one or some of us would commit to going as a representative of the council, just to be a listening ear, so then we bring it back here, and then we have more information so that we can maybe make recommendations to the council.
That makes sense.
Would you guys be?
Well, and are those recorded and put on YouTube as well, like this is?
Some of them were, not all of them were,
That would be
originally,
an easy way to get the info, not
Right.
necessarily have to
yeah,
be able
depends on
to
the-
watch it.
depends on the format of how you do those. Some of them are just drop-in type of things, so, you know, the last open house we had for the pool, several of you all attended. While we couldn't really do that format, we did a Facebook live stream the following week where we presented that same data, for lack of a better word, pictures and design stuff, in a online format that was recorded and is still on our Facebook page. So some of it is captured and available for, you know, not everybody can show up at Tuesday night.
Yeah, I just, if
6 p.m.
it
or
was
whatever.
on there, it'd be easy, because
Yeah.
I'm watching it for free time.
Yeah.
Rather than have to be, that's right.
Yeah, we strive to do that. We didn't get that done with the original, some of those original public input meetings with the water park design. We didn't quite have all the tech in place that we needed then.
Yeah.
We've got better tech on that now. So moving forward, I would anticipate either it would be recorded if it's that type of meeting, or we would do it on a Facebook Live type of thing, city chats type of thing with it, so that all that.
So for now, it would probably be the
So I think it was a few months back or whatever, after we passed the crop. And we sat down with, this is our 4-year, what was it, 4 years or 6 years?
About 4 years.
4 year layout of these are the projects we're thinking year 1 are these, 2, 3, 4. During that meeting, I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll be going basically back to that information periodically throughout this whole 4-year process, saying, well, this is what we were gonna do last year, this is what we thought about doing this year. In actuality, we're thinking that needs to change to this, or whatever, so those are those planned periodic
An
updates?
extra G on the destination.
I think we're trying to listen and type at the same time. I got a one-track brain. Yes, so once this pool gets kicked off, then, and this is, or was online somewhere, and we'll be getting updated again. Hasn't updated it for a couple weeks now on pricing, but it does list, the different projects and different years we're doing it. And then I'm keeping a running track of the actual expenses as they come in for these various projects. So, yeah, as we get down into looking at, next year, 2025, we've got, some court replacements, at Blackburn, ice rink slab stuff. Crockett restroom and splash pad, skate park. Walking past the sustainability initiatives and then the new park, which I need to change the name because now it has a name. Oxford Bend Park, construction. So, yeah, and then as we move farther out, we get less specific on, I don't know what some of these mean, ADA playground features. Is that gonna be one total park that gets a whole new playground that's one of the $1 million playgrounds? Or is that each, the main 5 playgrounds all get some added, play features that are more accessible type of stuff, or get other sensory type of features for someone who has autism and needs different sensory features or something like that. So some of those are less and less defined. Yes, services desk.
So is that basically what you're thinking we ought to be on top of?
Yeah, I mean, probably the one that gets me the most is the 2.5 for the performance park, mostly because our city manager Peoples was in here and said that's not really a matter for debate because it was so highly ranked on the survey. And at that point, I didn't realize that the survey was self-selected and 1/4 of the respondents aren't even Webster residents. So that's one I would think deserves a second look before we just cut that check for 2.5 and build it. And probably, since it's so far out, that is gonna get some additional public input.
Absolutely, that dollar amount was just something,
Guesstimated.
Yeah.
cause it could, I mean, quite frankly, it could be 7 million or 700,000. Depends on how big it is and does it have its own bathrooms, does it have its own concession, or is it just a pavilion? Does it have seating, blah, blah, all that stuff, We don't have the space for a Chesterfield amphitheater type of thing, but that was $6 million 16 years ago when they built it or something, so. Or is it just, a single pavilion structure that can then be used as a performance stage that doesn't have built-in seating? It can double as a regular park pavilion for, 30 weeks of the year.
Like Bluebird Park in Ellisville, where
Yeah.
they have like a flat stage, but people sat on the grass.
Right.
Where it also doesn't take from the ball field, so it'd be something where people wouldn't have to worry about the ball fields being gone. It's just kind of adds to it and people bring blankets and maybe there's a bathroom, it's all
That is
shared,
correct,
tennis courts or
correct,
something like
it
that.
wouldn't be interfering with the survey.
There is no current, and that's the whole deal, There are different opinions.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who you ask. That's kind of what I would go for. If I was the sole choice maker, yes, it would be more of a pavilion that can be used for multi-purpose stuff. And then we could set up on the field and use blankets and chairs and set up chairs or whatever if we needed to, but it wouldn't destroy the field and put permanent seating over the top of it. But if 1,000 people come out and say that that's what they want, then we'll look at that, you know. I would wanna definitely look at the usage and how often and how many. And is it ticketed, is it non-ticketed, all those questions have to be answered before you would cover up a ball field with seats, you know, if you're not gonna sell tickets and it's not gonna be fenced in where you can control access to it, then that doesn't make sense. If you're gonna control access and ticket it and it's gonna pay for itself with ticket fees and things like that, then that's a different. Those are two wildly different levels of
Yeah.
performance park, and where that's gonna be, I don't have an answer. So that'll be something that the residents need to weigh in on.
I guess my suggestion is, as Parks and Recs Commission, could we be more proactive in how engaged we are with that process going forward? Yeah, and just, you know, I would volunteer to be at the public listening sessions and bring it back here, just so that we're, instead of just endorsing things
Yeah.
after they've already been decided.
Yeah.
With the, you know, Parks and Rec,
Mhm.
and kind of come to the table. That's my proposal.
So I'm just gonna fix it with your email or?
I don't know, I think our emails have to be, I don't even know, we need to find out what the rules are in
Talk
terms of.
about it in here, yeah, you can't,
Yeah,
you start sending emails back and forth, then it becomes sunshine law stuff.
It has to be sent to
Yeah.
everyone, right?
could we request, I move that we request of Scott, if you could let us know if there's a session plan.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, you guys all get an invitation to all the ones
Okay,
last time we did them too, so anytime we do any of those, you guys will always get
okay,
that full invitation for them.
There's nothing on the calendar currently.
There is nothing currently on the calendar.
But I mean, even with the sunshine laws, we could send an email to the entire group of the AI plan on.
As long as it's the full group, I think, isn't that allowed?
You can't conduct any business because it's not open to, emails aren't open to the public. The public doesn't have the option to hear and read what you're saying and participate in that.
So it needs to be
Process.
discussed in there.
Right.
So how do you create a committee with the sunshine laws? Do you have to have your own public meetings?
Depends on if people are coming to the committee, so
So if it's three, it doesn't have to be public.
yeah, I think if it's limited to
Yeah.
3, you can do
once
it.
you hit 4, then you have to have. It has to be open, it has to be published 24 hours in advance, it has to be open to the public, have to have an agenda published and everything. And you can't have you three meet and talk about it, and then you three meet and talk about it, and then you three meet and talk about it, and then share that data together.
One person from each group
Yeah.
is together.
Sessions anyway.
Yeah, if not, so, yeah.
Well, would you guys be interested in a Pop W committee? I wasn't thinking that direction, but that's not a bad idea.
A subcommittee or?
Yeah, like a subcommittee, just to, you know, go to the listening sessions, be, you know, contact points for
Well, I mean, I plan on being at any listening session that's available. And I would certainly support, all of us being there.
Yeah.
I guess short of as a commission, you know, pushing for that next listening session and, you know, forcing the city's hand on when we want that to take place.
Or maybe also if we're having, if where it's every other month, if there is a session, then we meet that month, regardless of if we've met the month before, just so that we can get together and discuss what everybody else's input is. I think that's a good idea, when it gets closer to each project, kind of.
Yeah, especially the bigger ones.
Yeah.
I guess I'm
Just so we're not
questioning
missing
whether
anything.
we trust the city to hold a listening session within the time frame that we would like to gather some information? Or is that something we wanna force the hand on by moving to request another listening session
That's a
or
good
that sort of
question.
thing? I mean, is that,
Yeah,
So I can tell you, not in the nicest way possible, through an advisory commission, and if you say you will hold a listening session next Tuesday, you don't have that authority.
okay, well, yeah,
As an advisory.
right, no, yes, that's why I said we would move
Right.
to suggest and then that sort of thing, and I understand that that's our role and that's our.
So they are upcoming, I know I've said that for a couple months now, we're waiting on some grants to hopefully cover some of these public input processes that I've applied for. And quite frankly, the pool is taking longer than it should to get to the point where it's not taking copious amounts of my time. I think we're done with change orders. God, I hope tomorrow, by end of my 2 o'clock meeting, I hope we're pretty much done with change orders, which puts the design to bed. So then they can just go build the damn thing. But we're not there yet, and we probably should have been there in July. There's just been a lot of back and forth about different things, and one of the subcontractors is not fulfilling their duties and getting quantity numbers in their change order requests. They're just saying $17,000. I keep going, for what? Do you have a linear foot? How much lumber? How much concrete do you put down? What do you ask for? I'm not just gonna stroke your check for $17,000, which is really $170,000. So hopefully by tomorrow, that's resolved, and then I can move forward the design on some of these other things once the pool design is actually done. Did not think it would be this hard. And I built 2 of them, but this one's been harder. So. First time, last time, design build process. Other than that's what we just signed up for on the ice rink. We'll make it work.
My feeling would just be that, wait and
let's bring it up in our
See
next
what-
meeting and
see what, find out when Scott and the city,
Have-
holds
Yeah,
their next
Who?
listening session.
so Scott, are you the one ultimately responsible for these listening sessions, or who sets those, the council?
It would likely be me, cause some of them I'll be hiring, consultants to come help, architects, landscape architects, designers, engineers to.
As we go all through the Prop W projects.
For some of those bigger projects, yeah, or even some of those, even some of them that aren't as huge dollar amounts, like the skate park. Is it 250 or 400,000? I just closed it down. It's not a huge dollar amount, but I don't know diddly squat about skateboarding, so I need some designers. Yeah, well, I need the skaters to tell me what they want, but then I need a skate park designer to take that once and turn it into a fully fleshed design.
Well, and something, I mean, since it is gonna go on so long, something that might be advantageous is to go back to the drawing board, empty slate and say, where are we now? More pickleball courts? How about that dog park? You know, that, you know, even though we're in mid Prop W, that's a lot of years, you know, that it's gonna be.
I think some of those questions will be asked towards the end of next year, when we've got, this year was really the pool and the ice rink were the big ones, some solar, which I don't know what that's gonna lay out dollar wise now. The other ones were mostly maintenance stuff or smaller projects, and then we've got some of those big ticket things towards the end. So one, it's gonna be, how are we doing with the expenses? What if these other things come in, be able to hold the line, or does the ice rink end up being twice as much as we thought it was gonna be, which means we have to cut some projects at the bottom. If things come in good price or better price, then we can add more things into it, all this last couple of years. Will change, if things change up and decide not to do the whole project. What else are we gonna do with that $400,000? What do we do with it then? So.
So I'd say let's keep talking, let's bring it up at our next meeting and.
Do we need to do anything as official as saying it needs to be on the business for the next meeting?
If you want to, you certainly can.
I think we should.
Let's do it.
All right, with that, anything else before we move to adjourn?
Did we set next
Next
meeting?
meeting.
Oh, sorry.
Set for January because of something, right, Christmas.
Yeah, so that's your next regular scheduled one, by your bylaws. Normally you'd meet the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and is it actually Christmas? Christmas on Wednesday this year, it'd be Christmas maybe. So historically, you haven't chosen to meet those 2 days. You could always pick a different day in either one of those months. We could go up if we needed one.
Are there any key events between now and January 22nd?
Not unless one of those public, my grant comes in or I get the consultant hired for one of those public sessions on either Ivory Crocker or the skate park, in which case, you know, you definitely get invited to it. And if you want to add another meeting the following week to discuss that public input, you certainly could. And we put a meeting together and, you know, 4 days notice, so, you know, we need to, those people have open calendars.
So I'd like to make a motion to keep it at January 22nd unless we get some news otherwise.
Sounds good.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, next meeting, January 22nd. Now I'll ask anything else before we adjourn? All motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, meeting adjourned.
Shoot,
Aye, and bye.
But that's Karen, I'm sorry, I didn't see her pop on. Hi, Councilperson Alexander, I apologize, I didn't see that you had popped on, I had the screen up, looking at our agenda earlier, we just adjourned, but now that you're on, did you have anything that you would like to kick in, any of that you heard?
You know, and I apologize. I was really, really late getting home, and by the time I got logged in, it was right about 8 o'clock. So, so no, I didn't have much. The only thing that really that I wanted to, I would have shared with having to do with our meeting, our most recent city council meeting is, a couple of bills that we had first and second readings on that basically have to do with gun control. And they specifically had to do with one, creating an ordinance to prohibit the possession, manufacture, and transport, repair, and sale of certain types of weapons. The next one was creating an ordinance to deal with the unlawful transfer of weapons to minors and failure to report a stolen or a deadly weapon or explosive, a lost or deadly weapon or explosive. And then the other was an ordinance related to carrying a weapon in public buildings and failure to leave when requested. So we had the first and second readings on those. And then they will be discussed further in the next city council meeting. But that was just something that on the agenda that I did want to just share and bring to attention that was part of the meeting last week.
Thank you.
Councilperson Alexander, so just really quick, the decision not to add footings to the pool for the indoor, do you have any other information on why that decision was made?
Well, it was more than anything because we still have to deal with the budget information. I mean, if we are looking at doing that down the road, and Scott, keep me honest, our biggest concern was how we wanted to wait and at least give it, I think we said 3 years to have a better idea of the income that we're generating from the pool and the revenue. And one concern that was mentioned was if we went in with the footings now, would those still be what's required for the expansion when we do decide to do it down the road? Or would we be in a position where we had to change or remove or do, or have the additional expense of retrofitting those? So did I say that right, Scott?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's what it was. I mean, more than anything, we want to get a better feeling of what our actual income is going to be. And we were just concerned about the additional expense that may come to trying to retrofit those, if any of, for changes or designs that might be put into place down the road and over after 3 years.
Thank you.
And that's all
And that's exactly what you said, yeah.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
All right, thank you again. Apologize for being tardy.
No worries.
All right, have a good evening, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.